The following contains mature content. You've been warned.
From Wondery, I'm Mark Ramsey, and this is Part 7, the final chapter of Inside the Exorcist.
October 24, 1975. Chasen's Restaurant, a popular gathering spot for Hollywood's who's who. Right this way, Mr. Friedkin. The maitre d' leads Billy through the restaurant. Off in one corner, he sees a familiar face, Alfred Hitchcock. He's lunching with Bruce Dern, the star of what would be his final film. Billy is headed for a different corner and another regular patron. Here you are, Mr. Friedkin. Mr. Welles. Call me Orson. Friedkin had worshipped Orson Welles. Welles' Hollywood debut, Citizen Kane, redefined American movies and made a young Billy Friedkin decide that he too wanted to imagine powerful pictures on the silver screen. But that was a long time ago. Now, Welles, the legend, was unemployable in the town that gave that legend birth. Spendthrift, unreliable, tired, nobody in town would greenlight his projects, and nobody in town would turn down his dinner invitation. Call me Orson, Mr. Friedkin. Billy. Billy. Congratulations on the success of your picture, Billy. Thank you. I'm a great admirer of yours. Who isn't? The great success of your picture. Welles had a faraway look in his eyes. He gripped his cigar like it was a life preserver. Billy, does The Exorcist have a happy ending? Well, the movie has a hopeful ending. For me professionally, it's a very happy ending. Only if you stop the story now. Another puff on that cigar. Welles continued. You know, I would have been more successful if I'd left movies immediately, stayed in the theater, gone into politics, written anything. I've wasted the greater part of my life looking for money and trying to get along, trying to make my work from this terribly expensive paint box, which is a movie. Orson, I'm sure there will be great projects ahead for you. Orson shot him a glance that said, don't patronize me. Billy, we're born alone, we live alone, we die alone. Thanks to love and friendship, we create the illusion, for the moment, that we're not alone. The illusion. He looked down at the table and ground his cigar into an overflowing ashtray. He continued, you know what? They're going to love me when I'm gone. What about you, Billy? Are they going to love you when you're gone? Friedkin had someplace important to be, that's what he said. He shook the hand of Orson Welles and turned to leave. He looked back once. Orson was staring into space, surrounded by the smoke of his smoldering cigar, dissipating in the air. Alone. Fame can be a toxic cocktail. It can lead to arrogance, cockiness, boorishness. It can make the famous ugly and cruel. It can lead them to believe they can do anything. November 1975. Billy, I'm here. That's Francis Coppola. He's getting to work. These are the offices of the director's company. Francis, Billy, and Peter Bogdanovich were partners, and, thanks to a bankroll from Paramount, they could greenlight any movie they wanted besides their own, as long as the budget was reasonable. It was a creative paradise. Here. What's that? It's a script for a project every studio in town has turned down. Star Wars? Yeah, it's a space opera. Space opera? What bullshit? Well, that's what George calls it. George who? Lucas. What the hell is this? Who's going to direct this? George! No way can George pull this off. No wonder everybody in town said no, pass. 2 years later, red hot following The French Connection and The Exorcist, Billy released the movie he considered his masterwork, Sorcerer. The attention was fierce, the audience lines were long. There was just one problem. The attention, the lines, they weren't for Sorcerer. They were for the movie that opened 1 month earlier, Star Wars. Billy was despondent. He put his all into Sorcerer. It was as good as he could make it. But the reviews were negative. No, worse than negative. They were attacks, personal attacks, payback for years of hubris and misbehavior. Payback for too much success too fast and for a sense of entitlement which overwhelmed Billy's grip on reality. They had been waiting for him to crash, and now they savored the moment. I had flown too close to the sun, Billy said, and my wings melted. November 2006. Bill Blatty's 19-year-old son, Peter, is partying with friends. Pizza, beer, a lot of beer. He swayed as he got up to leave. He collapsed in the doorway. He heard the sounds around him trail off into silence. Everything became fuzzy and then dark. His friends tried to revive him. So did the EMT. But it was too late. He was dead. Of heart failure. Exacerbated by the impact of alcohol on a body already racked and weakened by heroin. Shortly before his death, he stepped into a confessional in a Catholic church. He later told friends, "I'm good with God now." Months later, Bill Blatty noticed something strange. His son's favorite tree in their backyard in Maryland. It was the middle of winter, yet there, the tree had grown buds. Overnight. The next day, they were gone. Soon after, a light was broken, and yet it was still on. 10, 20, 30 seconds, a broken light still shining. Strange, Bill Blatty thought, but revealing something remarkable. It was a sign from his dead boy, life after death. In 2015, he wrote, "Over the 7 years since Peter's passing, he has given his mother and me unremitting strong evidence that his death, like all human death, is a lie." Bill Blatty had spent decades bringing demons to life, and now, in the twilight of his own life, he was convinced, if there are demons, there must also be God. May 13, 2001. Jason Miller was long past the bright lights of The Exorcist. Few had seen him for years, few outside of this place, his regular stool in his regular watering hole in his hometown of Scranton, PA. He was still in theater around town, but the dreams had made way for the demons. He drank a lot. He was sweating. He didn't know why. It wasn't that hot. The pain began in his chest. It radiated into his neck and his arms. The heart attack was so massive, the coroner said he was probably dead before he hit the floor. Jason Miller was only 62. Billy Friedkin was home in Bel Air when he heard the news. Nobody called him. He read it like everyone else in the newspaper. His heart skipped a beat. He could feel anxiety claw up his spine. He felt guilty. What if I had never plucked him from a happy life as a playwright and led him to the temptations of Hollywood? He could have kept writing plays. He could have been happy. Instead, I placed him in the glare of a spotlight, and it shrouded him with an unfulfilled life. What kind of success does that to a man? In an interview the year before he died, Jason Miller pondered his legacy. "On my tombstone, I'll put, 'It's all a paper moon,'" he said. "When I take the bus to another zone, I go further. I'm not interested in coming back." There's Sherry. June 2017. Sunset, high above Bel Air. Billy Friedkin is sitting outside his home enjoying the last rays of light. Standing a few feet away, gazing at the peaceful horizon, there's Sherry. His phone sits on the table before him. It has begun to ring lately for work. His career has come full circle, back to demons, back to documentaries. He was now promoting a new project. He had followed 91-year-old Father Gabriel Amorth, known as the Vatican's Exorcist, as he battled demons and freed innocents from their grasp. The film, The Devil and Father Amorth, would return exorcism and Billy Friedkin to the zeitgeist. But that wasn't what he cared about now. What he cared about most was just a few feet away, drinking in the horizon and a nice glass of wine. Sherry Lansing had been the CEO of Paramount Pictures and one of Hollywood's most powerful women. And for the past 26 years, she had also been Mrs. Billy Friedkin. March 1991. Another glamorous party at another glamorous house in Bel Air. Billy Friedkin was far from Hollywood's A-list. In fact, he was barely on the guest list for this party. Friedkin can't get a job in this town. That's what Billy's own agent was telling people. His calls were returned with silence, a silence filled with meaning. "Billy, this is Sherry Lansing." "Sherry, you know Billy Friedkin." "Oh, you're much too young and beautiful to be Sherry Lansing. And you're much too young and cute to be Billy Friedkin." That was the moment Billy's life changed. They watched the Oscars together, Billy and Sherry. Neither remembered who won. They exchanged phone numbers and talked every night. This went on for 3 months. Then, with the impetuous zeal of teenagers, they got married. "Are we ready?" That was the minister. Billy and Sherry were in Barbados to get married in a small private ceremony. Sherry wanted a Jewish ceremony, but there was no rabbi for 1,000 miles, so she would have to settle for a minister who assured her that he could perform a Jewish wedding. "We're ready. Have you removed all references to Jesus from the ceremony?" Yes, absolutely." "Okay, proceed." "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here in the presence of our Lord Jesus Christ." "Stop!" Billy asked for the minister's copy of the Bible, and he and Sherry went through page by page, crossing out any references to Jesus. One other thing, Pastor." "Yes? Could you please remove the large gold crucifix around your neck?" The ceremony continued, and the happy couple was united in marriage. As Billy sat outside his home 26 years later, it seemed to him like 26 days. He watched Sherry sip from her glass. As the last twinkle of light yielded to the first glimmer of stars, there's Sherry. She was glowing, something divine. Sherry, do you ever think how different our lives would be today if this town hadn't turned its back on me if all those dream projects inside my head had actually gotten made. Sherry was still watching the horizon. She swirled the wine in her glass. She said, "Billy, when I was a kid, kindergarten, first or second grade, I don't remember. One day the teacher gave out sheets of colored paper. She had us fold the paper in quarters and cut out small sections at the edges. Then and only then, she told us to unfold the paper. I remember being amazed at this strange snowflake I had made. It looked pretty bad. Then the teacher collected the snowflakes, shuffled them, and handed them out so that everyone got somebody else's snowflake. This was the one we would take home and keep forever. I remember I started to cry. The snowflake she gave me was bigger and more beautiful and more perfect than the one I had made, but it wasn't mine. May 2017, Acton, California. An old west town at the foot of the mountains, an hour north of LA. Well, this one's dead, Linda. 2 others are dead too, and the rest are on their way. It's the dust out here. We're going to have to replace them if we're going to keep these dogs cool this summer. Another daily struggle for Linda Blair. Rarely does she appear on film or TV anymore. Her life, her passion, is now devoted to rescuing dogs from shelters across California. More than 100 dogs at her property here, the Linda Blair World Heart Foundation. The dogs need her help. And so, she publicizes and fundraises and speaks for those who don't have a voice of their own. It's the hardest job she's ever had. More than once, the struggle for money has been so dire, the foundation has been saved thanks only to last-minute gifts from generous friends. Now, more fundraising for air conditioners. Every day something.
We'll find a way to get the air conditioners. We always do.
At her feet, a small, year-old Labrador Shepherd mix, Owen. She reached down and held him close. She looked into his eyes, innocent eyes, yearning eyes, demanding nothing, wanting only to be loved. February 2017, Mosul, Iraq. A few miles from the location where the opening sequence of The Exorcist was shot more than 40 years earlier. This proud old city, one of the cradles of humanity, is under the control of ISIS. Locals don't want to talk about it. It's not safe to talk about it. But 5 miles southwest of the airport, there's a 100-foot wide sinkhole. How deep it is, nobody knows. The hole is a mass grave. It has swallowed thousands of lives. One local, Mutana Ahmed, described it as terrifying, deep and dark. Tens of thousands have perished there during the ISIS reign of horror. Bodies trucked in, victims made to line up at the edge of the hole, and kicked inside, some tossed in alive. 100 feet wide, deep and dark as hell. It was only a few miles from where The Exorcist had been filmed, and after 40 years, the demon had come home. April 4, 2000. Robbie, the haunted boy, now all grown up. The boy who had been freed from the demon a lifetime ago was celebrating. Congratulations, Rob. We'll miss you, Rob.
Congratulations.
It was retirement day. It was the end of a long and uneventful career. Rob had spent that career at NASA, and today was a day for goodbyes. Speech. Okay. It's been it's been an amazing 40 years. Where's the time gone? All of you mean so much to me, even if I've yet to learn some of your names. I'm not good at these things. I'm sorry. Many of you know that I don't have a wife, no kids or grandkids. I don't even have a dog. I don't have any relatives, really. But I do have a family, and for all these years, I am so grateful that you have been my family. I will miss you all so very much. And so, they went back to work, except for Rob. He sat at his desk one last time. He rubbed his hand over the curve of the chair, and he gave it a pat. Time to empty the desk and go home. As he carried his belongings away, he looked back. The bustle and buzz was unchanged by his departure. He raised his hand to wave goodbye. Nobody saw it. Phones and computers and papers and conversations, his family was busy. It was as if he had never existed. He waved goodbye to no one. Bedtime came early, like always. There was something about that music box, the one Aunt Harriet had given Rob all those years ago. Soothing, comforting. He lay down to sleep. It had been more than 50 years since he was ripped from the grasp of a demon. More than 50 years since his soul was saved and his body freed. As he lay there alone in bed, he welcomed the darkness. The priests had won. They had to win. They had to bring the light. But see, there is no light without dark, and there is no good without evil. Fate, monstrous and empty, you whirling wheel, you are malevolent. Well-being is in vain and always fades to nothing. October 17, 2013. Bill Blatty is the center of attention. It's a news conference to celebrate the 40th anniversary edition of The Exorcist. Mr. Blatty, did you ever try to reach the boy whose story inspired The Exorcist? Is he even still alive? Yes, he's still alive. I know where he lives. I know everything. And I have felt like reaching out to him, but I didn't because Father Bodern warned me that I might inflict trauma on him by any connection between my novel and his case. I really wanted to meet him and talk to him. I wanted to know what, if anything, he remembered, but that was all so selfish. So I just let it go. After all the success of The Exorcist, I felt I owed him something. Maybe I owed him peace. September 16, 2017. Hello, Rob.
Yes.
Hi, Rob. This is Mark Ramsey. I'm that guy who's doing the podcast about the making of The Exorcist. I know you asked me not to call you again, and I'm terribly sorry for bothering you, but I'm almost done with the series, and there's just a few things I'd like to ask you, if I can. Rob? Hello, Rob, are you there?
We can see you. I told you not to call.
I think he's there, but he's not saying anything.
We told you not to call. We told you not to call. We can see you. We told you not to call. We told you not to call. We told you not to call. Not to call. We told you not to call. Told you not to call.
From Wondery, this has been a 7-part deep dive inspired by the story behind an unforgettable classic movie. This is part 7, the final chapter of Inside the Exorcist. Written and narrated by Mark Ramsey, featuring Stephanie Drake as Linda Blair. Sound design and editing by Jeff Schmidt. Produced by Mark Ramsey Media. Consulting producer Jeffrey Glazer. Executive producer Hernan Lopez for Wondery. We'd like to learn more about you. Please complete a short survey at wondery.com/survey and subscribe to this show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen. It's free. For more information or to comment on this show, visit our website, wondery.com/InsideExorcist or facebook.com/InsideExorcist. If you like the show, we'd love you to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps others discover us. Tweet us at Inside Exorcist. Please thank us by rewarding our sponsors with your support. And please, support Linda Blair's Animal Rescue Foundation at lindablairworldheart.org.
Can you tell us what happened at the